recent remarks at the Oslo Freedom Forum in May 2025, alongside the arguments advanced in her book In Praise of Blood, revive a familiar yet deeply flawed narrative that Rwanda's leadership under President Paul Kagame and the Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, were the principal perpetrators of violence during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and primary aggressors in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. While such claims often attract attention, they rest on selective readings of history, disregard established legal findings, and obscure the lived realities of genocide survivors. The genocide against the Tutsi is among the most thoroughly documented crimes of the 20th century. It was planned, organized, and executed by Hutu power extremists operating through the MRND regime and affiliated parties, supported by youth militias and carried out with the direct participation of state institutions, including the army, gendarmerie, and communal police, under the authority of President Juvenal Habyarimana's inner circle, commonly referred to as the Akazu. This record has been established by the United Nations, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, and numerous national courts. Thousands of perpetrators have been prosecuted and convicted on the basis of extensive testimonial, forensic, and documentary evidence. Against this overwhelming body of proof, Rever's claim that the RPF killed during the genocide collapses essential legal and historical distinctions. The RPF did not initiate the genocide. It intervened militarily as the international community withdrew, equivocated, and delayed even naming the crime as mass extermination unfolded against the Tutsi and moderate Hutu opponents of the genocidal project. The RPF's advance ended the slaughter of more than 1 million people in just 100 days. To equate actions taken within the context of a civil war with the crime of genocide itself is to blur categories that international law treats as fundamentally distinct. Genocide is defined by intent, the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a protected group. That intent resided with the genocidal regime, not with the RPF. No international court, independent commission, or credible judicial body has produced fact-checked evidence convicting President Kagame or the RPF leadership of genocide. Allegations advanced to the contrary rely on hearsay, recycled claims, and internal contradictions rather than legal proof. This distinction matters profoundly. A central pillar of Rever's argument rests on leaked ICTR documents allegedly implicating the RPF in atrocities. These materials were never tested in court, never subjected to cross-examination, and never resulted in indictments. Allegations are not convictions. The ICTR's mandate was explicit: to prosecute those most responsible for the genocide. Over years of investigation by hundreds of international prosecutors, investigators, and forensic experts, no indictments were issued against Kagame or senior RPF leaders. This outcome was not the result of institutional reluctance. The tribunal actively investigated all allegations brought before it. Prosecutors ultimately concluded that the leaked materials lacked corroboration and did not meet the evidentiary threshold required under international criminal law. Elevating unproven leaks above judicial findings replaces law with speculation. Journalism has a duty to investigate, but presenting contested intelligence as settled fact, without acknowledging the legal scrutiny these claims underwent and failed, is not investigative rigor. It is narrative distortion. Rever's framing frequently gestures toward a double genocide, implying that both Hutu and Tutsi were victims of coordinated genocidal campaigns. This claim is legally indefensible. The United Nations, the ICTR, and multiple national jurisdictions have recognized one genocide in Rwanda, the genocide against the Tutsi of 1994. Acknowledging that Hutu civilians also suffered during the civil war and its aftermath is an affirmation of shared human dignity. However, civilian deaths, even on a large scale, do not constitute genocide absent demonstrable intent to destroy a protected group. Such intent has been established only with respect to the genocide against the Tutsi. Historically, narratives of Hutu victimhood were deliberately instrumentalized by the genocidal regime. A notable example is the March 4, 1993 distress call issued by Hutu intellectuals and regional officials from Bayumba and Ruhengeri. This document became a cornerstone of the Auto Defense Civile program, mobilizing fear to justify the mass arming of civilians. It framed the RPF as a foreign-backed conspiracy bent on domination and extermination, depicting Tutsi collectively as enemies of the nation. By portraying the RPF as architects of an alleged intellectual genocide against Hutu, such narratives laid the ideological groundwork for mass participation in the 1994 genocide. They were not incidental, they were central to the machinery of extermination. As the interim government and the Interahamwe retreated in July 1994, they implemented a calculated, scorched earth psychological strategy aimed at transforming civilians into human shields and future political leverage. The resulting mass exodus into Zaire, now the DRC, was not spontaneous. It was orchestrated. Propaganda projected the perpetrators' own crimes onto the RPF, convincing populations that revenge was inevitable and total. Local authorities forced communities to flee, labeling those who stayed as collaborators. Crops were destroyed, wells poisoned, and state resources looted to ensure dependence on the retreating leadership. Once across the border, the genocidal administration reconstituted itself in refugee camps around Goma and Bukavu. Aid distribution was weaponized, return was punished, and civilians were held hostage to protect armed regrouping. The international community's failure to separate militants from genuine refugees allowed the machinery of genocide to metastasize into a decades-long insurgency. This strategy succeeded in one tragic sense. Nearly 2 million people crossed into Zaire alongside the architects of genocide. From these camps emerged armed groups, Alir, Paylir, later the FDLR and its splinter factions, that continued to destabilize eastern DRC. Their ideology remains explicitly genocidal. Any serious analysis of the region's insecurity must confront this reality. Reducing the complex, multi-actor conflict in the DRC to a single villain is analytically lazy. The crisis involves more than 200 armed groups, chronic state weakness, and regional rivalries. Singling out Rwanda while minimizing the role of genocidaire militias distorts both history and present realities. Critics like Rever often freeze Rwanda in 1994. Rwandans did not. In the 3 decades since the genocide, the country has undergone one of the most striking post-conflict recoveries in modern history. Universal health insurance now covers over 90% of the population. Life expectancy has more than doubled. Rwanda ranks among Africa's leaders in gender equality, maintains some of the continent's lowest crime rates, and has sustained robust economic growth while cutting poverty by more than half. These outcomes are not accidental. They reflect deliberate policies of reconciliation, institutional rebuilding, and inclusive development. Ignoring this trajectory presents Rwanda as perpetually defined by violence rather than as a society that confronted catastrophe and rebuilt. The Oslo Freedom Forum presents itself as a champion of human rights. With that role comes responsibility. By inviting Judi Rever in May 2025, the forum elevated a narrative that has been repeatedly challenged by historians, jurists, and survivors. This is not about silencing dissent. It is about recognizing that genocide denial, especially when cloaked in the language of investigative journalism, inflicts real harm. Elevating such narratives while sidelining survivor voices and credible scholarship reflects a troubling selectivity in whose suffering is acknowledged and whose history is questioned. Human rights cannot be defended through false equivalence or selective memory. Rewriting history to cast those who stopped a genocide as its principal architects does not advance accountability. It corrodes it. Rwanda's past is painful and complex. Honoring its victims requires fidelity to facts, law, and context, not narratives that obscure responsibility and normalize denial through both sides' rhetoric. The persistent effort to recast the genocide against the Tutsi as a morally symmetrical conflict is not an academic disagreement. It is part of a broader pattern of denial that seeks to rehabilitate perpetrators and delegitimize those who ended the killing. Platforms that claim moral authority must exercise greater care. The defense of human rights demands truth, whole, uncomfortable, and rigorously grounded, not selective storytelling that distorts one of the most documented genocides in modern history. This is the USA New Times documentary.